Let me show you my 5-step process for making killer collage graphics for laser engraving using Affinity, which as of last week is now free to download. Let's get started. Step number 1, we need to get some graphics to collage. So you have a couple of different options here. 1, you can draw your own. 2, you can try to find things on Google Images or on the internet somewhere that you can vector trace to bring into this environment. Number 3, you can try using AI like Midjourney or ChatGPT to create your own graphics to use. And number 4, and what I suggest doing and what I did here, was just go on Etsy, think of the theme that you're looking to create, type that theme into the search bar, add SVG to the end of it, and up will pop a whole bunch of already pre-made graphics packs. So for example, what I did here today is I searched for old school tattoo SVG on Etsy. Up popped a whole bunch of different pattern pack options. I selected the one that I liked. I got about 50 graphics for about $2.50 or something like that. So when you're learning like this and you're not a good digital artist, like I can't freehand draw this type of stuff. So your best option is just to go out and spend a couple bucks and buy some pre-made SVGs. Now for the example I'm going to do here today, I just picked out 4 graphics from my pattern pack, but you can use as many as you want. So I'm going to use this snake here, this rose, this eagle, and this nautical star compass thing. So what I did was I just opened up all of these SVG files, copied them over to a brand new document here in Affinity, and now we can get started. Step number 2, we have to prep each one of these individual graphics for stacking. So right now, for example, if I were to take the snake graphic and overlay it on top of our nautical star here, you can see that it just starts to look like a jumbled mess. And that's because number 1, they're both the same color. And number 2, they both have a transparent background. So right now there is no border, there's no delineation between where the snake graphic starts and where the nautical star graphic ends. So to do that, to fix that, what we're going to do is add a small offset border and offset fill around each of our graphics. But first, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, especially if this is your first time using Affinity. So number 1, make sure that you are in Vector Studio. So up here in the top left-hand corner, the vector button should be highlighted. And number 2, we want to make sure that all of our layers are ready to accept the type of editing we're about to do. I found that Affinity is very specific and very particular when it comes to this. A little bit more than I think Inkscape or Adobe Illustrator is. So if you look over to the right-hand side, this would be your layers panel, and each one of these layers right now, if you select them, are going to correspond to a different graphic that's on the screen there. And you want to make sure that each one of these says curves. So if you imported a graphic and it says something else, it says polylines or rectangle, or maybe it's a whole bunch of individual shapes that are just grouped together, you're going to want to make sure to combine all of these things down and flatten them into curves. And to do that, you would select your graphic, right-click, and then you would have this option here that says, it's grayed out on mine, but it would say convert to curves. So that way, every single one of the graphics that you're editing now says curves on the layer. All right, so let's create our first offset path. We'll start with our eagle here. So if you've already used LightBurn or xTool Creative Space or Inkscape or Illustrator, the idea of an offset path is probably not foreign to you. But if you aren't sure what that is, well, you're going to see in a minute. So to create our offset path in Affinity, it has a different name. So in Affinity, it's called the contour tool. And if you look over to your toolbar here on the left-hand side, it's the solid circle with a dash circle going around the outside. And that's going to be what your offset path tool is here. So the first thing we have to do is duplicate our layer. So I'm going to select it, right-click, select it, come over to the layers panel, right-click on that layer, and then hit duplicate. Or you can hit Control-J on Windows or Command-J on a Mac. So now we have 2 layers of the same object, the same shape, and I want to change its color because I need to see what I'm working with here. So you can change it to any color except black or white. So I'm going to go with, we'll go with red. So to find the color wheel, it's above your layers panel here. The little tab up top will say color. And I'm just going to select this red here. And now you should have a red layer on top, but I want that behind my original graphic. So I'm going to come over to the layers panel, grab that layer, which is on top right now, and just pull it down one beneath our black layer. And now the black layer should pop back up on the screen. But keep your red layer selected. Now we're going to come over to our offset tool, or sorry, our contour tool. I'm going to try to correct myself every time I say that. You're going to hit contour tool. And then up top here on the left-hand side is where the options come up. And you want to find the area, the input box that says radius. And for our radius, this is where we're going to add how large we want our offset to be. This is a judgment call. I usually start about 1.5 millimeter or 2 millimeter just to see what it looks like. But, you know, this is going to be up to you. So let me try 1.5, hit enter. And depending on how complex your graphic is, this might take a second. So that gave me my offset of 1.5. You can see it expanded that red graphic. And now it looks like there's a red border around our shape here. I think that's a little bit too much for me. So I'm going to bring it down. I'll try like 1.25. See what happens. That looks, let me go back up to 1.5 maybe. Yeah, I'll stick with 1.5. So the issue here is if your border, if your offset's too thick, when you start stacking your graphics, they start to look like they're not a part of each other. They don't flow very well. But if it's too thin, well, it looks like you didn't really do anything at all, and they still might start to mash together. So I'll just stick with 1.5. And now we have our offset. So if you want to, whenever you're done choosing your offset size, you're going to click on the button that says Bake Appearance, and that's going to flatten everything down so it can become editable. All right, so now let's take a look at our offset by itself. So I'm going to come over to the Layers panel and turn off the visibility for the top layer. I just want to see what the offset looks like, and it doesn't look particularly good, right? There's a lot of holes and gaps and noise all throughout our offset, and all we want is a solid red shape here. And when you're working in Inkscape and Illustrator, you'd have to go through and actually remove all of this noise by yourself. But Affinity has this awesome tool that does this for you. So you're going to keep your offset selected. You're going to come up, click on Vector on the top toolbar, and come down to Fill Holes. And look at that. It just filled in all of that junk. And that is more like it. And that's what we want our offset to look like. So if I bring back our top layer here, you can see we have a really nice graphic with an offset. Now, you might have to still do a little bit more cleanup work depending on how your SVG files were created. Some people are really good at them and they give you nice clean SVGs, and some people aren't so good at them. So for example, I can see there are a couple errors here that I have to clean up manually. So you see these weird cut-ins that I have here. So to do that, if you have anything like this on your file, you're going to come over and click on the black arrow, which is your node editor tool. And then you can just click on each one of these nodes that you want to get rid of, and just click on the backspace or the delete key. And this gets rid of all this weird stuff. Again, all we want is a solid red shape with no weird stuff going on. All right, that's looking good. So now I have a nice solid offset. I can bring back my eagle. And now that graphic is prepped and ready. So we're just going to repeat this for every graphic that you're looking to combine. So we'll go over to our snake here, select him, I'm going to duplicate him, right click, duplicate, I'm going to change to red. You want it to be the same color. So use the same color that you used for the previous graphic for all of them. I'm going to bring it down below our black, keep it selected, contour tool, 1.5, enter. I might bring that down a little bit. You can use different offsets for different shapes, but you don't want to go too crazy. Keep them within the same realm. All right, that looks pretty good. Maybe I might go a little bit lower. Let's try 1.1. There we go. I like that. Okay, so I like that. So I'm going to click on Bake Appearance. That's going to flatten everything. Let me hide my top layer here. Again, really messy. We want to clean this up fast. Keep it selected. Vector, fill holes. So it just filled in everything beautifully. See if there's any cleanup work that needs to be done. This one looks really clean. So awesome. No cleanup work. Bring back my top layer here. And we are now done our second graphic. And again, just repeat this for every single graphic that you have on your screen. So I'm going to go finish up these two and then we'll come back. Step number 3, now it's time to create our collage. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to select each shape, its original shape and its offset, and group them together. That way when I'm moving things around, I don't pull one off of the other. So I'm going to select both, right click and click group. Same for each one. Next, it's probably a good idea to bring in the template that you're going to be designing for. So whether you're doing like a knife blade or a card or a handle or something, especially if it's a weird shape, you might want to bring it, import it into the system here so we can use it as a reference. If you're doing something that's not too complicated, you can just create a reference here. So for example, I'm going to engrave this on an anodized card. So it's just really just a rectangle. So I'm gonna create just a rectangle shape to take the place of our card. And I'm going to set the fill to transparent. And then I'll keep it with a border, just a different color than what we have on the screen here. So I'll go with like a green, just so I can see it. I'm not really doing much with it. I just want to have it around so it helps me figure out where I should put the different graphics, because you want to make sure that you're designing for the shape that you're going to be engraving on, right? Now it's time to just start stacking graphics in our frame. This part's a little bit hard to teach because it's really subjective, and half the time this takes me, a day or two to get them just where I want them, but we'll try to go through a more simplistic version right here so I can show you how I do this. So what I'll end up doing is just start placing my shapes within the frame area. So let me see. Let's do, let's bring our snake down here, I suppose. Actually, let me bring my rectangle. I don't know why it's on the bottom there. I'm going to bring my frame up to the top for my reference. That looks pretty good, maybe a little big. I'll take my eagle. I'll flip him around to the other side. Spin him. Kind of angle him in here. So here is where the stacking order is going to start to matter. To stack your graphics, it's basically going to go by the layer order over here on the right-hand side. So if you start moving these layers, the graphics will start layering on top of each other. A real quick way to do this is hold down Control or hold down Command on your Mac. And the keys next to the P, so the little brackets, the left and right brackets, those will start to move your layers up or down in the stacking order. So there you see that. And this is just how you start placing things where you want them in the order. All right, so let's just do a little snake action here. Now for the background, I'm going to take the nautical star, which is already in the background, but let's pretend that it wasn't. Let's say that it was already, it was on the top like this. I would kind of just position it where I want, hold down Command, and start hitting that bracket key so it puts it in the back. Let me spin this around. Scale it up a little bit. Usually for background elements, you either want them to be really big, so it kind of looks abstract, or you want them to be a little bit smaller, so it looks like a pattern. So for this one, I'm going to go with a little bit larger. Just have it like this, I suppose. All right. Now for our rows. So this one's a little bit too big. Whoops. I'm gonna duplicate it, bring it over here. So it kind of has a pattern vibe to it. Maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller. Again, I just, pull things, change the size, move them around. I'm just gonna do a quick version here. All right, I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. I'm not going to go any further. So before we move on to the next step and flatten everything down for laser, now is a great opportunity to test what it's going to look like completely clipped to size. And to do that, we're going to use the clipping mask. So I will say, if you're used to using clipping mask in Illustrator, that the Affinity version is really not as great, but it does help for kind of visualizing what you're going to be engraving. And to do this, first thing you have to do is select all of your artwork, everything except for the rectangle frame. So all of your artwork, right click on it and add it to a group. So now it's just one large group with all those little groups inside of it. From there, you want to select your frame, so your rectangle, and we have to make this a filled shape. So right now it's a stroke with a transparent fill. I need to come up here and change this to a fill. It doesn't matter what color at all. And then I'm also going to take the stroke down to 0. So there's no stroke and a green fill here on top of my artwork. Next, I'm going to come over to the layer. I'm going to right click on the rectangle and do create clipping mask. And you can see they just popped everything into that shape. And this is more or less what your engraving is going to look like. So if you want to move it around to get an idea, you can click on the little arrow on the group, select the clipping mask, and now you can kind of move around your mask and get an idea of what it's going to look like all framed up. So let me, I'll go with that. That looks pretty good. And once you're done, you can just release your clipping mask by right-clicking on the clipping mask over here on the layer and clicking on release, and it'll kind of pop everything back into spot there. I'm going to select my shape. I'm going to get rid of the fill, so I'm going to click on the transparency, and then I'm going to add that stroke back to kind of bring it back to what it looked like before. That step is not mandatory. Again, the clipping mask in Affinity is a little bit weaker than it is in Illustrator, but does give you an idea of what things are going to look like. Step number 4, this is where the magic happens. It's time to prep everything for laser. So right now, if you were to import this graphic into LightBurn or EZCad or xTool Creative Space, it would have an absolute meltdown because laser software does not respect the Z index of graphics. So all of these stacked graphics we have here doesn't care for it. So we have to prep it in a way that when we send it to laser, we're only going to be sending 1 or maybe 2 layers that aren't overlapping at all. First thing we have to do is come over to our layers list over in the layers panel here and ungroup everything. We want no groups here. So I'm going to select all of my layers as soon as it lets me. Okay, select the group here and hit ungroup. And then all of these individual groups, I'm going to select them all. And again, ungroup. We want no groups. It should just say curves for every single layer. Next, I'm going to put a lock on my rectangle because I don't want this to be a part of this process. So select your layer, and there's a little lock button right here, or you can right click on it and hit lock. That's just going to keep it right there. Next step, I'm going to click and drag and select all of the graphics on the screen. Right click and go down to expand stroke. So this is just going to make absolutely sure that there are no live properties happening right now. Everything is set to curves, which is what we need. Next, I'm going to select everything again. I'm going to select every layer. And I'm going to come up top here to the Boolean operators, which are on the top toolbar. So we have add, subtract, intersect, exclude, and divide. And the one that we want to click is divide. So make sure everything is selected and then go ahead and click divide. Depending on how complex your graphics are, that might take a minute or two, but once it's done, if you look over here at your layers panel, now we have tons and tons of little layers instead of those big layers. Because what it did was the program cut out every single little overlapping piece in our design. Next step, we want to combine the light colors. So we only have two colors in this graphic, black and red. So all you have to do is come over to your menu here, over to your layers menu, click on any one of these layers. It's either going to be black or it's going to be red. So right now I have a black shape. I'm going to select it, come up to the top toolbar, layer, select, same fill color. So now it's going to go through your document and it's going to select everything in your document that is the same color, so everything that's black. You're going to come back up to your Boolean operators and you're going to click the first operation, which is add. And what that did was it just combined all of your black layers into one large layer. I'm going to do it again. Now we're going to click on a red layer. So I just clicked on any shape over here that's red, layer, select, same fill color. Just selected everything in my document that's red, Boolean operators, click on add. Let me show you what we're left with. So after all of those operations, you should only have three layers. The first being our locked rectangle frame, the second being the black layer, which is our engraving layer, and the third being our red layer, which is the negative space layer. And let me show you what they look like here. So if I were to hide the negative space, this would reveal what our engraving layer looks like. Now, as far as exporting goes, you can export both of these layers directly to LightBurn or Creative Space if you want that. But we're just going to go with a basic version here today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my red layer and I'm just going to trash it. I'm just going to get rid of it. And now we are left with just our engraving layer. Step number 5, last step, we are going to export our graphic as an SVG file so we can use it in our laser software. So if you want, you could use this rectangle frame to now crop your image down to size, but I like to do that in LightBurn. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of the rectangle. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to click on the trash can there. So I only have one layer, which is my engraving layer. I'm going to come up to File, Export, and then click on Export. So on the left, you'll have all the different formats you can export as. I always use SVG. And then there are a couple SVG options here. So I'm going to use SVG for export. I haven't tried any of the other ones. On the right-hand side, there are a couple more options. The only one that is really important is to make sure that rasterize is set to nothing. By default, it's going to be set to unsupported properties. But we want it set to nothing. We want to keep this as a vector file. All of the other stuff, you can just leave it as is. I haven't really messed with any of these. So when you're done, just click on Export.